Thank you, everyone. It's been a great coverage so far from both research and industry and also government around the directions and importance of manufacturing. So I'm not going to dwell a lot on some of those things that are said today, but really cover what this program means and what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, it's about, at the end of the day, value, and technology can be used to improve manufacturing processes and performance and productivity, which, as Anthony mentioned with a Louis Vuitton touch, is very important now. But it's also about how we create new value for our customers, and some of the insights into the great work that's being done with Tanya's group about new problems we can solve decouples the labour costs in these conversations. And that's a really important part of what we've got to think about in the future for manufacturing here. I think even though the talk today is about technology, and it's easy to get excited with the bright lights, bells and whistles and stuff that we're going to go through, we can't lose sight of the importance of people and culture and system. And I think the weighting that Anthony put on that in his talk today is not by coincidence. Great companies don't become great companies just by buying something and getting a result. It's got to be integrated into the business, and it's the people that make it happen. So I think when we talk about technologies, and I won't mention this further today, but we've got to think of it as a whole of business aspect, not just something that we buy and it fixes a problem, because it won't. Okay, so if we look at today's presentation, we're basically going to cover off some of the key technologies today. And I'm not going to make any apologies. These are really complex topics, and Tanya's given you a very small taste of how full on this can get. And I appreciate from looking at the audience and knowing a number of your businesses that we're all at different stages of understanding. So I'm going to start with some videos that will explain at least one aspect of a technology in each of these categories, just so you get the flavour of it. I'm sure everyone will walk out with something today that they didn't know, and I think today is really about awareness about what areas we're looking at and why they're important. And it may not be directly for your business and your products, it may be for your customer, it may be for your supplier, it may be for your competitor, but you need to know, and without knowing, we're vulnerable. We're also going to touch on the research institutions and their capability, and I'll share some further insights with the work that's been done there, and we'll talk about the need for information and what we want to do with it moving forward. So you'll hear the term today, emergent technology and disruptive technology. And I don't want to use them lightly. When we talk about technology, we're not talking about having something that we've already got and it gets a little bit cheaper, a little bit faster. We're not interested in those things. Those things are going to take care of themselves. What we're interested in is emergent technology where it makes a big difference. And you'll see some of those things today, and in many cases it could be lots of zeros of difference. In other scenarios, it's about disruptive technology. And for those that have had the pleasure of Johan Roos bringing insights around business model innovation, we're talking about creating new value, new markets, displacing traditional technology. And so for the businesses in the room that have got existing technologies, this is very important to make sure that we have the right or the latest technology, because being displaced is never pleasant. I think it's been mentioned earlier, obviously the 6 areas of technology that we're going to look at, so I won't repeat them now, but we will go to each of these and give it a bit more of an explanation and a bit more of an overview with a video that helps capture the intent of these technologies. I think it's important that we understand what we're talking about, and so you can better make judgments as to the relevance for you. All right. So, additive manufacturing, I think most people in the room would maybe know it as 3D printing or additive, but essentially it's a very popular technology. I think a great example that Anthony gave today, but not a week goes by where there's not some new breakthrough at the moment. It's certainly captured the hearts and minds of the media. However, it has some serious consequences in the sense that it is a disruptive technology. It is a digital technology, and it displaces physical location. It changes the way that we think and design and solve problems. Many of the traditional manufacturers would have been using rapid prototyping for 20 years or more. That's not new. However, we're now seeing certainly moulds, tooling and fixturing, and the example Anthony gave today was a good example of that type of application. But in jewellers, in many foundries now, they're all 3D printing their moulds. And if you used to be a pattern maker, I mean, that job's no longer required. It's the reality. In aerospace, there's been a lot of developments, in particular titanium used in Joint Strike Fighter. They're making aircraft parts today. They're making medical implants today. We're making new parts of jet engines with General Electric, with Boeing. And it's not just we're making these parts and what's the benefit. Well, in the case of the jet engine, this fuel nozzle they made, it went from 35 parts to 1 part. And it's a very precision machined metal part now produced as one. So you can imagine the savings, you imagine the measurement, you imagine the inventory changes that has in that example. And believe me, it's a very safety critical part, it's a very accurate part, but it can be done. So it's not just basic plastic stuff. And as a consequence, it actually saves 15% of the fuel. And if, I don't know what the airline fuel bill is, but I imagine that's a lot of money. So it is an exciting area. So I'm going to play a video now. It's going to show you some of the latest technology in metal printing. I think metals is one of the most exciting areas at the moment, but still becoming. It's not fully mature. However, for those that are in the tooling game or have got a tool-making background, I think this is absolutely going to give you an indication of where things are going. Play the video, please. see from that video, if you're a tool maker, you're not going to be able to produce a tool in less than a day. But also, for those that are currently getting their tools made in China, because it's cheaper because of the labour cost, maybe it isn't anymore. And I think this is where, these are new disruptions. Speed to market is critical, and some of these applications are not just about cost. A lot of these products that you saw on the screen are actually not able to be produced any other way. And I think, in particular, the time becomes critical. If we compare it to a plastics part, so this is a typical injection moulding part and it's a real production part out of Europe that would have been made in metal. It's made in a plastic as a soft tool, and it can only make about 2,000 parts as a consequence. But when you compare the two, we're talking about an incredible difference, 56 days down to less than 1 day in time. So if you're in the business of a competitive market, if you're trying to create rapid learning or rapid testing or just getting a product to market quicker, we know what those opportunity costs are, and they're far greater often than these things. But for SMEs in the room, we won't injection mould because it's very expensive to make the tool and get it made somewhere and so forth. This is now bringing low volume parts maybe into the mix that couldn't have been previously done. So it's certainly an area where there's going to be a lot of movement. And this doesn't just affect 3D printing, it's also the materials that are used with 3D printing, of which there's more than 140 now.